Kneel before your betters, half-breed. Celestia's knees hit the cold marble floor with a crack that echoed through the grand hall of the Silvermoon Palace. Pain shot up through her legs, but she bit down on her tongue, refusing to give her uncle the satisfaction of hearing her cry out. Around her, hundreds of pack members had gathered for the annual tribute ceremony, their eyes fixed on the spectacle her Uncle Maddox was creating. "Lower," he hissed, his meaty hand pressing down on her shoulder. "Show these alphas the respect you've failed to show your own family." The weight of countless stares burned into Celestia's skin. She could feel their judgment, their disgust, their pity. At 23 years old, she had lived her entire life as an outsider in her own pack. Her mother had been a powerful beta wolf, but her father had been human. When the fever had taken them both 6 years ago, she'd been left alone with her mother's brother, a man who saw her mixed blood as a stain on his family's reputation. "Is this truly necessary, Maddox?" a voice called from somewhere in the crowd. Celestia recognized it as Elder Thorne, one of the few pack members who had ever shown her kindness. "Necessary?" Maddox's voice rose to a theatrical pitch. "My niece has disgraced us for the last time. She was caught this morning in the sacred grove, gathering moonflower without permission. Those flowers are reserved for pure-blooded ceremonies only." A murmur rippled through the assembled wolves. Celestia wanted to scream that she'd only been gathering them to make medicine for old Mrs. Chen, whose arthritis had been flaring, but she knew her uncle wouldn't care. He'd been looking for an excuse to humiliate her publicly for months. "The king approaches!" someone shouted from the entrance. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Celestia's heart hammered against her ribs. King Thaddeus of the Northern Territories was here for the tribute ceremony, where smaller packs pledged their loyalty and offered gifts in exchange for his protection. The Silvermoon pack had been under his domain for 3 generations, but this was the first time in a decade that the Alpha King himself was attending rather than sending an envoy. Celestia kept her eyes fixed on the marble beneath her, counting the swirls in the stone to distract herself from the humiliation burning in her chest. She could hear the heavy doors opening, could feel the shift in energy as power flooded the room like a physical force. "Rise for King Thaddeus Blackthorn, Lord of the Northern Territories, Alpha of Alphas, Protector of the 5 packs." Feet shuffled as everyone stood. Everyone except Celestia. Her uncle's hand remained firmly on her shoulder, keeping her pinned in her kneeling position. "This one stays down," Maddox announced loudly. "She has yet to learn her place." The footsteps approaching were measured, confident. Even through the floor, Celestia could feel them, each step resonating with authority and raw power. A scent reached her then, pine and winter storms, and something wildly masculine that made her wolf stir for the first time in months. Her wolf had been dormant since her parents' death, barely a whisper in her mind, but now it pushed forward with urgent intensity. Mate, mate, mate. No, that was impossible. "Explain." The voice was deep, commanding, with an edge that suggested the speaker was accustomed to absolute obedience. Celestia risked a glance upward and immediately wished she hadn't. The man, standing 15 feet away, was devastating. King Thaddeus stood at least 6.5 feet tall, his frame packed with muscle that strained against the black shirt he wore. His shoulders were impossibly broad, his chest defined even through the fabric, and his arms looked like they could break a man in half without effort. But it was his face that stole her breath. A strong, angular jaw, high cheekbones, and eyes that glowed like molten amber. His dark hair was artfully tousled, as if he'd just run his fingers through it, and she could see the slight points of wolf ears emerging from the top of his head. When he moved, she caught a glimpse of claws where his fingernails should be. He was in his shifted state, the powerful hybrid form that only the strongest alphas could maintain, walking the line between man and beast. "Your Majesty," Maddox said, and Celestia could hear the nervousness creeping into his uncle's voice now. "I apologize for the disturbance. I was merely correcting my niece's disrespectful behavior before your arrival. She has shamed our pack." Those amber eyes fixed on Celestia, and she felt pinned by their intensity. The king's nostrils flared slightly as he scented the air. "Your niece," he repeated slowly. "And what crime has she committed that warrants this public humiliation? She's a half-breed, Your Majesty, half-human. And this morning she was caught stealing moonflower from the sacred grove." "I didn't steal them." The words burst from Celestia before she could stop them. "I was gathering them for medicine. Mrs. Chen needed—" Her uncle's hand cracked across her face, snapping her head to the side. "Silence! You do not speak unless spoken to directly." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Did you just—" The king's voice was soft now, deadly soft. "Did you just strike your niece in my presence?" Maddox's hand left Celestia's shoulder. "Your Majesty, I was merely enforcing discipline." She answered my question. "I asked about her crime, and she provided context you conveniently omitted." King Thaddeus moved forward, and pack members scrambled out of his way. She gathered medicinal herbs to help someone in need. "This is your definition of a crime worthy of public humiliation? The sacred grove is forbidden to half-breeds." "The sacred grove," the king said, his voice carrying easily through the now silent hall, "was established by my great-grandmother as a healing garden for all pack members in need. There is no restriction based on blood purity, because Queen Alara believed that suffering does not discriminate, and neither should healing." Celestia watched her uncle's face turn red, then white. Around them, pack members shifted uncomfortably. I was not aware of the grove's original purpose, Your Majesty." Clearly. The king had reached Celestia now, standing directly in front of her. This close, his scent was overwhelming, making her wolf howl and scratch at her consciousness. "Stand up!" It took Celestia a moment to realize he was speaking to her. She started to rise, her legs shaky from kneeling on the hard marble, and immediately stumbled. Before she could fall, a large hand wrapped around her upper arm, steadying her with surprising gentleness. The moment his skin touched hers, electricity shot through her entire body. She gasped, and she saw the king's eyes widen fractionally. He'd felt it too. The mate bond snapping into place like a lock finding its key. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice quieter now, meant only for her. "Celestia, Your Majesty. Celestia Ashford." "Celestia," he repeated as if testing how her name felt in his mouth. His thumb brushed absently against her arm, and she shivered. "How long have you lived with your uncle?" 6 years since my parents passed." "And has he always treated you this way?" She wanted to lie, to say everything was fine, but those amber eyes seemed to see straight through to her soul. He does what he thinks is necessary to maintain the pack's reputation. My mixed blood is a source of shame." Something dangerous flashed across the king's face. His jaw clenched, and she heard the low rumble of a growl building in his chest. "Your Majesty," Elder Thorne stepped forward cautiously. "Perhaps we should proceed with the ceremony. I'm sure this matter can be resolved later." "No." The king's eyes never left Celestia's face. "This matter will be resolved now." He turned, pulling Celestia with him as he faced the assembled pack. His hand slid down from her arm to her hand, his fingers interlacing with hers in a gesture that made gasps ripple through the crowd. In wolf culture, an alpha holding someone's hand in public was a declaration of protection, of possessiveness. "I came here today to receive your pack's tribute and renew our alliance," King Thaddeus said, his voice ringing with authority. "But I find myself disgusted by what I've witnessed. This pack has allowed one of its own to be abused and degraded, based on nothing but prejudice and ignorance." "Your Majesty, please," Maddox started, but the king's glowing eyes fixed on him, and he fell silent. "I'm not finished. Celestia Ashford, daughter of a beta and a human, has demonstrated more honor and compassion in gathering herbs for an ailing pack member than anyone else in this room. She acted selflessly, and she was punished for it. Meanwhile, her uncle struck her in front of his king." The growl in his voice deepened. "That is not justice. That is cruelty." Celestia's heart was racing. She didn't understand what was happening. Why was the king defending her? The mate bond would explain his reaction, but did he plan to acknowledge it? Kings didn't take half-breed mates. It was unheard of. From this moment forward, the king continued, Celestia Ashford is under my personal protection. Any who harm her, any who speak against her, will answer to me directly. The crowd erupted in whispers. Maddox's face had gone pale as death. Your Majesty, surely you don't mean to suggest... I suggest nothing. I am stating fact. King Thaddeus turned to look at Celestia again, and the intensity in his eyes made her knees weak. You have a choice, Celestia. You can remain here with your uncle's pack, where you will be protected by my decree, but still face their prejudice every day. Or, he paused, and she saw uncertainty flicker across his face for the first time, as if he was about to take a leap and wasn't entirely sure of the landing. Or you can come with me to the royal palace. I find myself in need of someone knowledgeable about healing herbs for the palace gardens. The position comes with lodging, protection, and the full respect due to any member of my household. It was a job offer, a way out, but the way he was looking at her, the way his thumb was stroking across her knuckles, suggested it was so much more than that. Celestia's voice came out as a whisper. You would truly want me at your palace, even knowing what I am? What you are, he said firmly, is intelligent, compassionate, and brave enough to help someone in need despite the consequences. Those are qualities I value far above blood purity. Tears pricked at Celestia's eyes. No one had ever defended her like this. No one had ever made her feel like she might be worth something. Then yes, I accept. The smile that crossed King Thaddeus's face was transformative, softening his harsh features for just a moment. Excellent. He turned back to the crowd, and Celestia suddenly found herself being pulled forward as he strode toward the front of the hall. There, on a raised dais, sat 2 thrones, the larger one meant for the king, and a smaller one beside it that was typically occupied by the local pack leader during ceremonies. Maddox was standing next to the smaller throne, clearly having planned to sit there during the tribute presentations. Move, the king commanded. Her uncle scrambled out of the way. What happened next would be burned into Celestia's memory forever. King Thaddeus sat down on the larger throne, his powerful frame filling it perfectly. Then, instead of gesturing for her to stand beside him or sit in the smaller throne, he tugged her hand, pulling her directly onto his lap. The crowd's whispers exploded into shocked exclamations. Celestia froze, very aware of the hard muscle beneath her, of the arm that had wrapped around her waist to steady her, of the way she was now positioned on the Alpha King's throne in front of hundreds of witnesses. Your Majesty, she breathed. People will talk. Let them talk, he murmured into her ear, his breath warm against her skin. You knelt before them in humiliation. Now you sit with your king. Let them see exactly how much you're worth. His words sent a shiver through her entire body. This was a statement, a declaration. By pulling her onto his throne, he was elevating her status in the most visible way possible. She wasn't just under his protection. She was being claimed. Now, King Thaddeus announced to the room, his voice carrying easily even though his lips were still close to Celestia's ear. Let us proceed with the tribute ceremony. Who speaks for the Silver Moon Pack? Elder Thorne stepped forward hesitantly. I do, Your Majesty, as the senior elder. Not Maddox Ashford? Given the circumstances, I believe it would be more appropriate for him to step aside from pack leadership. A muscle in the king's jaw ticked with satisfaction. A wise decision. Continue. The ceremony proceeded, but Celestia barely processed any of it. She was too aware of the king's presence, of the possessive hold he maintained on her waist, of the rumble she could feel in his chest every time he spoke. Her wolf was practically purring, content in a way Celestia had never experienced. When various pack members came forward to present their tributes, crafted goods, promises of warriors, shares of territory resources, the king accepted them with his free hand. never once suggesting that Celestia should move from his lap. About halfway through the presentations, she felt his nose brush against her hair, scenting her. The intimacy of the gesture in such a public setting made her breath catch. "You smell like moonflower and rain," he murmured, his voice so low that only she could hear. "It's intoxicating." "Your Majesty, Thaddeus. When we're alone, or when we're essentially alone like this, you may call me Thaddeus." "Thaddeus!" She tested the name, and felt him tense beneath her. "I don't understand what's happening. Why are you doing this for me?" "Can you truly not guess?" His arm tightened around her waist. "Your wolf must sense it. Mine is going absolutely wild right now, demanding I dismiss everyone from this room and claim you properly." Heat flooded her face. "The mate bond." "The mate bond," he confirmed. "From the moment I walked into this hall, I could scent you. And when I saw you on your knees, being humiliated and struck," his voice dropped to a growl, "I have never felt such rage. You are mine to protect, mine to cherish. That these people dared to treat you as anything less than precious is unforgivable." Celestia's heart was hammering so hard, she was sure everyone in the room could hear it. "But I'm half human. You're the Alpha King. Your mate should be—" "Is," he interrupted. "Not should be. Is. You are my mate, Celestia. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. I don't care if you're half human, quarter human, or no wolf at all. You are mine, and I am yours." She turned slightly in his lap to look at him properly, and the intensity in his amber eyes stole her breath. "You can't possibly mean that. You don't even know me." "Then I will learn you," he said simply. "Every day, every moment. I will learn what makes you smile, what makes you laugh, what makes you feel safe, and you will learn me." His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across the spot where her uncle had struck her. The area was already starting to bruise. "I swear to you, Celestia, no one will ever hurt you again." Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. "Why are you being so kind to me?" The look he gave her was almost sad. "Have you been treated so badly that simple kindness makes you cry? That breaks my heart, little mate." He wiped her tears away with his thumb, the gesture impossibly gentle from someone so powerful. The tribute presentations finally concluded, and Elder Thorne stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the Silver Moon Pack has presented all of its tributes. We pledge our continued loyalty to the Northern Territories and to your rule." "Your pledge is accepted," King Thaddeus said formally. Then his tone cooled. "However, there is the matter of restitution." Maddox, who had been standing off to the side looking like he wanted to disappear, visibly paled. "Restitution, Your Majesty. For 6 years you have housed, fed, and, nominally, cared for your niece. However, you have also abused her, degraded her, and used her mixed heritage as a weapon against her. The negative far outweighs the positive." The king's eyes glowed brighter. "Therefore, you will provide Celestia with her inheritance." "Inheritance?" Maddox sputtered. "There is no. Do not lie to your king. When your sister died, she left property, possessions, and a sum of money. You absorbed it all into your own holdings, and gave your niece nothing." When Maddox opened his mouth to protest, the king held up a clawed hand. "I had my advisors research pack records while the ceremony was taking place. We have documentation." Celestia stared at her uncle in shock. "You kept my mother's things? All this time?" Maddox looked like a cornered animal. "It went to pack expenses, to the cost of housing and feeding you, which is a family obligation you took on voluntarily," Elder Thorne interjected, looking disgusted. "Maddox, is this true? Did you keep Celestia's inheritance?" The silence was damning. "You will return every penny, every possession, every piece of property," King Thaddeus commanded. "You have 1 week to compile it all and deliver it to the royal palace. If even one item is missing, I will consider it theft from my mate, and I will respond accordingly." The words, "my mate," rang through the hall like a bell. If there had been any doubt about the king's intentions, they were now obliterated. He had publicly claimed her. More gasps, more frantic whispers. Celestia saw several pack members dropping to one knee, heads bowed, a sign of respect for their king's chosen mate. Her uncle, meanwhile, looked like he might be sick. "Your Majesty, please, I didn't realize, if I had known she was your mate, you would have treated her well?" The king's voice was sharp as a blade. "So, you only offer respect to those who have power or connections? That tells me everything I need to know about your character, Maddox Ashford. You are relieved of any leadership position within this pack. Elder Thorne will assume control until a proper vote can be held. You can't. I am the Alpha King. I absolutely can." Thaddeus stood, lifting Celestia with him effortlessly, as if she weighed nothing. He set her on her feet beside him, but kept his arm around her waist. "This audience is concluded. Celestia, gather any personal belongings you wish to bring with you. I want to depart within the hour." She nodded numbly, her mind reeling from everything that had happened in the last 30 minutes. Her life had completely transformed. "I'll help you," a soft voice said. Mrs. Chen, the elderly wolf Celestia had gathered moonflower for, was standing nearby. Her eyes were kind, and she was smiling. "Come, dear, let's get you packed." As Celestia moved to follow her, the king's hand caught hers. "Don't go far. And if anyone says even one unkind word to you, I want to know immediately." The protective growl in his voice made her wolf preen. "I'll be fine. Thank you, Thaddeus." His eyes softened at the sound of his name from her lips. "Hurry back to me." Mrs. Chen led her out of the grand hall and through the familiar corridors to the small room Celestia had occupied for the past 6 years. It was barely larger than a closet, with a narrow bed, a single shelf, and a tiny window. "I can't believe this is happening," Celestia whispered as she pulled her worn bag from under the bed. "That man is your mate," Mrs. Chen said, wonder in her voice. "The Alpha King himself. Oh, Celestia, you deserve this. You deserve someone who will see your worth." "I'm terrified," Celestia admitted. "What if he changes his mind once we're away from here? What if he decides a half-breed mate is too much of a liability? Did you see the way he looked at you?" Mrs. Chen was helping her fold clothes, adding them to the bag. "That male is completely besotted. I've lived a long time, child, and I know what the mate bond looks like. He won't change his mind." Celestia wanted to believe her. She gathered her few possessions, some clothes, a photo of her parents, her mother's journal, a few books. It all fit easily into one bag, a testament to how little she'd been allowed to call her own. "Wait here," Mrs. Chen said suddenly, and she shuffled out of the room. She returned a few minutes later carrying a wrapped bundle. "This was your mother's. I saved it from Maddox years ago because I knew he had no right to it." Celestia unwrapped the bundle with shaking hands. Inside was a beautiful cloak, deep blue and lined with silver thread that shimmered in the light. "This was hers? She wore it when she bonded with your father. I thought maybe you'd like to have it for when you bond with your mate." The tears came again, but these were tears of gratitude. Celestia hugged the older woman tightly. "Thank you, for everything, for being kind to me when no one else was. You take care of yourself, dear, and visit sometimes if you can." "I will, I promise." When Celestia made her way back to the grand hall, she found King Thaddeus speaking with Elder Thorne, but his eyes tracked to her the moment she entered. He excused himself immediately and crossed to her side. "Is that everything?" he asked, eyeing her single bag. "Yes. I don't have much." Something pained flickered across his face. "Then we'll fix that. You'll have everything you need at the palace. Everything you want. I just want—" She hesitated, then decided to be brave. "I just want to feel safe." His expression softened, and he reached out to tuck a strand of her dark hair behind her ear. "That, little mate, I can absolutely give you." He took her bag from her shoulder, slinging it over his own, then offered her his hand. She took it, marveling at how her smaller hand fit perfectly in his larger one. "Your Majesty," Elder Thorne approached, bowing respectfully. Safe travels. And congratulations on finding your mate. Celestia will make a wonderful queen. Queen. The word hit Celestia like a physical blow. She hadn't even thought that far ahead. If she was the king's mate, that made her. She already is wonderful, Thaddeus said firmly. The title will just make it official. They walked out of the pack house together, Celestia hyper-aware of all the eyes watching them. Some pack members bowed respectfully, others stared in shock, and a few, like her uncle, lurking in a corner, looked furious. Outside, a massive black vehicle waited, flanked by several others. Guards in formal uniforms stood at attention, all of them powerful-looking wolves who bowed as their king approached. This is Celestia, Thaddeus announced to his guards. My mate and your future queen. You will protect her as you protect me. Her safety is your highest priority. Yes, your majesty, they chorused, dropping to one knee. Celestia felt overwhelmed by the show of respect. A few hours ago, she'd been on her knees in humiliation. Now, elite royal guards were kneeling before her. Thaddeus helped her into the vehicle, sliding in beside her. The interior was luxurious, all leather and polished wood. As soon as the door closed, enclosing them in relative privacy, some of the formal tension left his posture. Are you all right? He asked, studying her face. I don't know, she admitted. This doesn't feel real. I know it's overwhelming. We can take things as slowly as you need. His hand found hers again, their fingers interlacing. But I meant what I said in there. You're mine now, Celestia. I take care of what's mine. The vehicle started moving, carrying her away from the only home she'd ever known. Despite everything she'd endured there, a part of her felt the loss. As if sensing her thoughts, Thaddeus squeezed her hand. You can grieve the life you're leaving behind, even if it wasn't a good one. Change is hard, even when it's for the better. You're very understanding. I'm trying to be what you need. He studied her for a long moment. Can I ask you something? Of course. Your wolf. I can sense her, but she feels quiet. Is she all right? Celestia bit her lip. She's been dormant for years. After my parents died and my uncle started treating me so badly, she just retreated. I could barely feel her anymore. Until today. Until you met me, he said, not a question. Yes. When you walked into that hall, she woke up completely for the first time in years. She was screaming mate so loudly I thought I might go deaf. A pleased rumble emanated from his chest. My wolf did the same. He's never reacted to anyone like that. He wants to claim you, mark you, keep you in our den until your scent is so thoroughly mixed with ours that no one could ever question that you belong to us. Heat flooded her face at the possessive words and the images they conjured. But, he continued, his thumb stroking over her knuckles, we're going to take this at your pace. The mate bond is powerful, and it's easy to get swept up in the instincts. I want you to choose me, not just accept me, because biology tells you to. That's very patient of you. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. Don't be too impressed by my patience. It's taking every ounce of control I have not to kiss you right now. Celestia's breath caught. She looked up at him, at those intense amber eyes, at the sharp line of his jaw, and the full curve of his lips. What if I wanted you to? The air between them grew electric. His eyes darkened, and she saw his claws extend slightly, a sign of how much her words affected him. Celestia, he growled, her name a warning and a plea. I'm not saying we should complete the bond right now, she said quickly. But a kiss, would a kiss be too much? A kiss, he repeated, his voice rough. No, little mate, a kiss would not be too much. A kiss would be perfect. He moved slowly, giving her every opportunity to change her mind. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. When he finally closed the distance between them, Celestia's eyes fluttered shut. The kiss was gentle at first, almost reverent. His lips moved against hers softly, learning the shape of her mouth. But when she sighed against him, something shifted. The kiss deepened, became hungrier. His tongue traced the seam of her lips, and she opened for him without hesitation. Heat flooded through her entire body. She could feel the mate bond singing between them, urging them closer. Her hands came up to grip his shoulders, feeling the solid muscle beneath his shirt, and a groan rumbled from deep in his chest. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were glowing so brightly they illuminated the dim interior of the vehicle. His fangs had extended, and she could see the barely leashed control in every line of his body. That, he managed, was definitely not taking things slow. "I don't think I want slow," Celestia admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. His eyes closed briefly, and she saw him take a deep breath, clearly fighting for control. "You're going to be the death of me, woman. My wolf is demanding I pull this vehicle over and claim you properly right here, right now." "And what are you demanding?" His eyes opened, meeting hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "I'm demanding that I court you properly. That I show you I can be gentle and patient, not just possessive and primal. You deserve romance, Celestia. You deserve to be cherished." Her heart melted at his words. "Has anyone ever told you that you're remarkably sweet for an alpha king?" He laughed. "Sweet is not generally how I'm described. Powerful, dangerous, ruthless. Those are the usual terms. Well, you're sweet to me." "Only to you," he confirmed, pulling her closer until she was tucked against his side. "To the rest of the world, I'm still the big bad alpha king. But for you, I can be soft." They rode in comfortable silence for a while, Celestia's head resting on his shoulder. The motion of the vehicle and the warmth of his body were making her drowsy. "Sleep, if you want," he murmured against her hair. "We have a few hours before we reach the palace. I'll keep watch. Will you tell me about it? The palace? It's old, built by my great-great-grandfather. Stone and timber, set into the side of a mountain. We have hot springs that run beneath the structure, keeping everything warm in winter. Gardens that my grandmother planted. She loved growing things. A library with books dating back centuries." His voice was soothing, painting pictures with his words. "Your quarters will be in the royal wing, connected to mine. You'll have space to yourself whenever you need it, but I'll always be close if you want me." "That sounds perfect," she whispered. "There's a balcony that overlooks the valley. You can see for miles. I thought maybe we could have breakfast there tomorrow morning, just the two of us. No politics, no pack drama. Just us, getting to know each other. I'd like that." She felt him press a kiss to the top of her head. "Sleep now, little mate. You've had quite a day." She wanted to protest, to stay awake and savor every moment of this impossible dream, but exhaustion pulled at her. Within minutes, she'd drifted off, safe in the arms of her mate. Celestia woke to the sensation of being lifted. Her eyes fluttered open to find herself cradled against Thaddeus's chest as he carried her out of the vehicle. "I can walk," she mumbled, still half asleep. "I know you can. But why would I let you when I enjoy holding you so much?" She blinked up at him, then looked around. They were in a massive courtyard, lit by lanterns that cast a warm glow over stone walls and elegant architecture. The palace was even more beautiful than she'd imagined, all soaring towers and arched windows, with ivy climbing the walls and flower boxes beneath every window. "Welcome home," Thaddeus said softly. "Home." The word made her chest tight with emotion. A woman approached, older and dignified, with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. "Your Majesty, welcome back. I see you've brought a guest." "More than a guest, Iris. This is Celestia, my mate. She'll be staying in the Queen's chambers." The woman's eyes widened, then crinkled with genuine delight. "Your mate? Oh, how wonderful." "Welcome, dear. I'm Iris, the head of household. Anything you need, you just ask me." "It's nice to meet you," Celestia said, feeling a bit ridiculous being held for this introduction. "Iris, could you have a meal sent up to my chambers? Light, nothing too heavy. And perhaps a bath drawn?" Thaddeus was still walking, carrying Celestia through ornate hallways. "Of course, Your Majesty. Right away." He carried her up a grand staircase, down another corridor, and finally through a set of double doors into the most luxurious rooms Celestia had ever seen. A massive bed dominated one wall, covered in rich fabrics. Arched windows showed a view of the valley he'd mentioned, the moon casting silver light across distant trees. There was a fireplace, currently lit and crackling warmly, and several doors leading to what she assumed were other rooms. Thaddeus set her down gently on a plush sofa near the fireplace. "These are my chambers. The Queen's quarters are through that door," he pointed, "but they haven't been occupied in decades since my mother passed. They'll need to be refreshed, updated to your tastes. Until then, I thought you might be comfortable here, with me, if that's acceptable." He suddenly looked uncertain. This powerful king worried that she might not want to stay in his space. "It's more than acceptable," she assured him. "It's perfect." Relief flooded his features. A knock at the door announced the arrival of servants with trays of food and towels for a bath. "The tub is through there," Thaddeus gestured to another door. "Take your time. I'll wait out here with the food." Celestia slipped into the bathroom and gasped. The tub was more like a small pool, already filling with steaming water. Bottles of oils and soaps lined a shelf, and fluffy towels were stacked nearby. She undressed and sank into the hot water with a groan of pleasure. After the stress of the day, the heat was heavenly. She took her time washing away the dirt and tension, using soap that smelled like lavender and honey. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a plush robe she'd found hanging on the back of the door, she felt more human, or wolf, than she had in years. Thaddeus was waiting by the fire, and his eyes tracked over her with obvious appreciation. "Better?" "So much better. Thank you." He'd laid out food on a low table, bread, cheese, fruit, and some kind of soup that smelled amazing. They sat together on the sofa, and Celestia realized she was starving. "Eat," he encouraged. "You barely weigh anything. When was the last time you had a proper meal?" "I ate," she said defensively, then added honestly, "but my uncle believed in keeping me humble. That included controlling my food portions." The growl that rumbled from him was pure anger. "That ends now. You eat whatever you want, whenever you want. If I find out you've skipped even one meal, I'm going to be very displeased." Despite his stern words, warmth flooded through her. He was worried about her, cared about her well-being. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the crackling fire and the comfort of full stomachs making everything feel dreamlike. "Can I ask you something?" Celestia ventured. "Anything. Why aren't you mated already? You're the Alpha King. Surely there have been plenty of eligible wolves throwing themselves at you." He smiled wryly. "There have been. But I was waiting. For what? For you." He set down his plate and turned to face her fully. "I'm 31 years old. Most alphas find their mates in their early 20s. As the years passed with no sign of mine, my advisors kept pressuring me to choose someone, to take a political mate for the good of the kingdom. But something in me resisted. I felt like she was out there, waiting for me, that if I was patient, the moon goddess would lead me to her. And she led you to a half-breed servant being humiliated on a marble floor," Celestia said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. "She led me to the bravest, kindest woman I've ever met," he corrected firmly. "A woman who suffered abuse and degradation, but still found it in her heart to help others. A woman who could have become bitter and cruel, but remained soft and compassionate." His hand cupped her face. "You are not your blood status, Celestia. You are your actions, your heart, your spirit, and all of those things are extraordinary." She was crying again, but these were good tears. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." "You existed. That's all you had to do." He brushed away her tears. "Now it's late, and you need rest. Real rest, in a proper bed, where you're safe and warm." He stood and helped her to her feet, leading her to the massive bed. When she looked at it uncertainly, he seemed to understand her hesitation. "I can sleep elsewhere if you'd prefer." The sofa, or there's another bedroom down the hall. No, she interrupted. Stay, please. I don't want to be alone. The smile that crossed his face was soft and tender. Then I'll stay. But I'm keeping these on. He gestured to his clothes. Because if I get in that bed with you wearing anything less, my control is going to snap entirely. She climbed under the covers, and he lay down beside her on top of them, a compromise, but he pulled her close, tucking her head under his chin, and that was all she needed. Thaddeus? She whispered into the darkness. Thank you. For everything today. For defending me. For protecting me. For seeing me. His arms tightened around her. You never have to thank me for treating you the way you deserve, Celestia. This is just the beginning. I'm going to spend every day proving to you that you're valued, that you're precious, that you're exactly where you belong. She snuggled closer to him, breathing in his scent. I think I'm going to like being your mate. I know I'm going to love having you as mine, he rumbled against her hair. As sleep pulled her under once more, Celestia's last conscious thought was that for the first time in 6 years, she felt like she was home. Morning light streaming through the windows woke Celestia. For a moment, disoriented, she couldn't remember where she was. Then she felt the warm weight of an arm around her waist, felt the solid presence behind her, and everything came flooding back. She was in the palace, in the Alpha King's bed, because he was her mate. Behind her, Thaddeus stirred. Good morning, he rumbled, his voice rough with sleep. Good morning. How did you sleep? Better than I have in years, she admitted. Good. He pressed a kiss to her shoulder, and she shivered. Ready for that breakfast I promised you? 20 minutes later they were seated on the balcony he'd mentioned, a table between them laden with more food than 2 people could possibly eat. The view was spectacular. Rolling green valley dotted with trees, mountains rising in the distance, a river winding through it all like a silver ribbon. This is beautiful, Celestia breathed. It's my favorite spot in the palace, Thaddeus said. I come here when I need to think. Now I'll share it with you. They ate and talked, really talked, learning about each other. He told her about his childhood, about the weight of knowing he'd one day be king, about his parents who'd died in a border skirmish when he was 20. She told him about her human father, who'd been a teacher and had loved her mother so completely that he'd given up his human life to live in her pack. About growing up caught between 2 worlds, never quite fitting in either. My father used to say that being different was a gift, she said softly. That seeing the world from multiple perspectives made me stronger, not weaker. I tried to remember that when things got hard. He sounds like a wise man. He was. They both were. I miss them every day. Thaddeus reached across the table to take her hand. Tell me about them. I want to know everything about the people who raised such an incredible woman. So she did. She told him stories about her parents, about her mother's fierce protectiveness and her father's gentle humor, about the way they'd loved each other, how they'd faced the pack's disapproval of their mixed mating with quiet dignity. They would have liked you, she said eventually. My mother would have appreciated your strength and fairness. My father would have liked how you value things beyond blood status and tradition. I wish I could have met them. He stood and circled the table, pulling her up and into his arms. But I'm honored to know you, to have found you. She tilted her face up to his. Kiss me again? You never have to ask twice, little mate. This kiss was different from the one in the vehicle, slower, deeper, more thorough. His hands spanned her waist, pulling her flush against his powerful frame, and she could feel every hard plane of muscle. Her own hands slid up his chest, over his shoulders, tangling in his dark hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were glowing again. I want to claim you, he growled. I want everyone to know you're mine. Then do it, she whispered. His eyes widened. Celestia, are you sure? The claiming bite is permanent. Once it's done, I'm sure. And she was. In less than 24 hours, this man had shown her more care, more respect, more genuine affection than she'd received in 6 years. The mate bond sang between them, confirming what her heart already knew. I want to be yours, Thaddeus, completely. The look on his face was pure reverence mixed with primal hunger. Not here, not on a balcony where we could be interrupted. This moment deserves privacy, deserves to be special. He swept her up into his arms and carried her back into the bedroom, kicking the door closed behind them. He set her down beside the bed, his hands framing her face. Are you absolutely certain? He asked one more time. I need to hear you say it clearly. I want you to claim me, she said firmly. I want to be your mate in every way. The last thread of his control snapped. With a low growl, he kissed her again, walking her backward until her legs hit the bed. They tumbled onto it together, his weight pressing her into the soft mattress. Tell me if anything is too much, he murmured against her lips. Tell me if you want me to slow down or stop. I will, she promised. His hands found the tie of her robe, the one she was still wearing from her bath the night before. He paused, giving her one more chance to back out, but she nodded. He pulled the tie loose, pushing the robe open to reveal the simple chemise she wore underneath. The sound he made was purely appreciative. You're beautiful, so beautiful. His lips traced down her jaw, her neck, finding the spot where her shoulder met her throat. The claiming spot. He licked over it, and she shuddered. When I bite you here, he said against her skin, it will hurt for just a moment. But then it will feel incredible. The mate bond will complete, and you'll feel everything I feel. My love, my devotion, my need to protect and cherish you. I want that, she gasped as his teeth grazed the sensitive spot. I want all of it. Then it's yours. You're mine, Celestia. Mine to protect, mine to worship, mine to love for the rest of our lives. His teeth sank into her shoulder and she cried out, not in pain, but in overwhelming pleasure. The mate bond exploded between them, a golden thread connecting their souls. She could feel his emotions crashing over her, fierce possession, tender affection, burning desire, and beneath it all, a love so deep it took her breath away. When he withdrew his teeth, he licked over the mark, sealing it. It would remain visible for all to see. 2 crescent scars that proclaimed she belonged to the Alpha King. My turn, she whispered. His eyes widened. You want to mark me? Isn't that how it works? We claim each other? Yes, but many mates don't. The female doesn't always. He seemed to be struggling for words. I would be honored to bear your mark, Celestia. More than honored. He tilted his head, exposing his throat in a gesture of complete trust and submission. Something an Alpha King would never do for anyone else. Celestia leaned up and pressed her lips to the spot where his shoulder met his neck. Her fangs, which had never fully developed because of her mixed blood, somehow extended now, sharpened by the mate bond. She bit down, tasting his blood, feeling the bond strengthen and solidify from her end. His emotions flooded into her, the same fierce love, the same desperate need, the same bone-deep certainty that they belonged together. When she pulled back, the mark stood out starkly on his golden skin. Her mark. Her claim on him. Perfect, he breathed, pulling her close. You're perfect. They stayed entwined together for hours, learning each other's bodies, whispering secrets and promises, cementing the bond between them. By the time they finally emerged from the bedroom, thoroughly claimed and utterly content, the sun was setting. I should probably make an appearance, Thaddeus said reluctantly. Let the palace know I'm back and that I've brought my mate. There will be formalities, announcements to make. Do we have to? Celestia groaned. Can't we just stay here forever? He laughed. Tempting, but no. Besides, I want to show you off. I want everyone to see my beautiful, brave mate. The way he said it, with such pride and affection, made her heart flutter. They dressed, Thaddeus in formal attire befitting a king, and Celestia in a dress that Iris had apparently left for her while they were occupied. It was beautiful, deep green with silver embroidery, and it fit perfectly. How did she know my size? Celestia wondered aloud. Iris knows everything, Thaddeus said with a smile. It's slightly terrifying. He offered her his arm, and they walked through the palace together. Servants and guards they passed stopped to bow, their eyes widening when they saw the claiming mark on Celestia's shoulder and the matching one on their king's neck. They entered a formal dining hall where several people were gathered, advisors based on their important bearing. Your Majesty, an older man said, bowing, we didn't expect you back so soon. The tribute ceremony usually takes... His eyes landed on Celestia, specifically on her mark. Oh my. Everyone, Thaddeus said, his voice ringing with authority and barely suppressed joy. I'd like you to meet Celestia, my mate and your future queen. We completed the claiming bond this afternoon. The room erupted in congratulations and excitement. One by one, the advisors came forward to greet her, to welcome her. Some looked surprised by her mixed heritage, but none dared say anything negative, not with their king's claiming mark so prominently displayed on her shoulder. This is wonderful news, Your Majesty, one of the advisors said. We'll need to plan a formal mating ceremony, of course. Announce it to all the packs. This will strengthen alliances, solidify... Yes, all of that. Thaddeus waved him off. But tonight I just want to have dinner with my mate. The politics can wait until tomorrow. They ate together at the head table, Thaddeus's hand never straying far from hers. He was constantly touching her, a hand on her knee, fingers brushing her arm, his shoulder pressed against hers. The claiming bond made the contact feel essential, necessary, as vital as breathing. After dinner, he took her on a tour of the palace, showing her the gardens his grandmother had planted, the library with its thousands of books, the hot springs that ran beneath the building, creating natural heated pools. We should try those sometime, he murmured in her ear, and the suggestion in his tone made her blush. They ended up back in his chambers, their chambers now, as night fell fully. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, official announcements, perhaps even pushback from traditionalists who thought a half-breed queen was unacceptable. But tonight, wrapped in each other's arms, the mate bond glowing warmly between them, none of that mattered. I love you, Thaddeus said into the darkness. I know it's fast, and maybe I shouldn't say it yet, but I do. I love you, Celestia. Her heart felt like it might burst. I love you, too. I didn't think I could fall so quickly, but how could I not? You saved me. You saw me. You chose me. I will choose you every day for the rest of our lives, he promised. You will never doubt your worth again, little mate. I'll spend forever proving it to you. And as Celestia drifted off to sleep, safe in the arms of her mate, her king, she knew that her life had irrevocably changed. From servant to queen, from invisible to precious, from alone to loved. The next few weeks passed in a blur. True to his word, Thaddeus spent every day proving his love and devotion. He accompanied her to the healing gardens and listened as she taught him about different herbs and their uses. He had craftsmen come to update the queen's chambers exactly to her specifications. He commissioned a memorial to her parents in the palace gardens, a beautiful stone bench surrounded by moonflowers. Word of the Alpha King's half-breed mate spread through the packs like wildfire. Some celebrated it as a progressive move, a sign that the old prejudices were finally dying. Others were less enthusiastic. A formal council meeting was called to address concerns about the king's mate choice. Celestia sat beside Thaddeus on a smaller throne that had been placed next to his, wearing a crown of silver that marked her as queen. Her heart pounded as pack leaders from across the territories filed in, some looking friendly, others skeptical. Your Majesty, one of the more traditional alphas began, while we celebrate that you've found your mate, there are concerns about her heritage. A queen with human blood? My mate's heritage is irrelevant, Thaddeus interrupted, his voice cold. The moon goddess chose her for me. Are you questioning the goddess's wisdom? The Alpha paled. Of course not, Your Majesty, but nothing. Celestia is my mate, my queen, and any disrespect shown to her is disrespect shown to me. Is that clear?" A tense silence fell over the council chamber. Then, surprisingly, Elder Thorn stood. The elderly wolf had made the journey from Silvermoon specifically for this meeting. "If I may speak, Your Majesty," Thaddeus nodded. "I have known Celestia since she was a child. I watched her grow up under difficult circumstances, and I saw how she responded to adversity, with grace, compassion, and strength. Her human blood doesn't make her weak. If anything, it gives her a perspective that our kind desperately needs." He turned to address the other pack leaders. "Our traditions are important, but so is progress. So is kindness. This young woman embodies the best qualities of both wolves and humans. She will make an exceptional queen." Another pack leader stood, Alpha Patricia of the Western Territories. "I agree with Elder Thorn. We've been so focused on blood purity that we've forgotten what truly matters: character. If the king believes in his mate, then so do I." One by one, other voices joined in support. Not all of them. There were still holdouts, traditionalists who would probably never accept her. But enough to matter. Celestia felt tears prick her eyes as she listened to these strangers defend her, support her. Beside her, Thaddeus took her hand and squeezed. "The matter is settled, then," he announced. "In 1 month's time, we will hold a formal mating ceremony and coronation. All packs are invited to attend and witness, as Celestia officially becomes your queen." After the meeting, as they walked back to their chambers, Celestia was quiet. "What are you thinking?" Thaddeus asked. "I'm thinking that a few weeks ago I was on my knees being humiliated, and now I'm going to be a queen. It doesn't seem real." He stopped walking and turned to face her, his hands cupping her face. "It's real. You're real. This life we're building is real, and you deserve every bit of it." "I used to dream about being rescued," she admitted, "like in the old fairy tales my father would read to me. A prince would come and sweep me away from my terrible life. But I never really believed it would happen." "I'm not a prince," he said with a small smile. "I'm a king. And you didn't need rescuing. You'd already survived, already proven your strength. I just gave you the opportunity to thrive." She kissed him then, pouring all her love and gratitude into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "I have something for you," he said. "Come with me." He led her to a part of the palace she hadn't explored yet, opening a door to reveal a spacious, sunlit room filled with tables and equipment. "I know you wanted to study healing," he said. "Your mother was teaching you before she died, right?" Celestia nodded, confused about where he was going with this. "This is your healing workshop. I've arranged for the best healers in the territories to come and teach you, if you want. You can learn properly, study medicine and herbalism, become the healer you were meant to be." He looked almost nervous. "I know being queen comes with responsibilities, but I don't want you to lose yourself in the role. You should still pursue your passions." She stared at the room, at the careful thought he'd put into creating this space for her. "You did this for me?" "I'd do anything for you." She threw her arms around him, holding him tight. "Thank you. Thank you for seeing me, for understanding what matters to me." "Always," he murmured into her hair. "Always, my love." The day of the mating ceremony dawned bright and clear. Celestia woke early, nerves fluttering in her stomach. Iris and a team of attendants descended on the queen's chambers to help her prepare. The dress they'd created for her was stunning. White silk with silver embroidery depicting wolves and moonflowers. It fit her perfectly, flowing elegantly to the floor. They arranged her dark hair in an intricate style, weaving silver ribbons through it, and painted her face with subtle cosmetics that enhanced her natural features. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked like a queen. "You're beautiful, dear," Iris said, patting her shoulder. "The king won't be able to take his eyes off you." The ceremony was held in the palace gardens, with hundreds of guests from all the packs in attendance. As Celestia walked down the petal-strewn path, her eyes locked on Thaddeus waiting for her at the altar. He was magnificent in formal black attire, his dark hair styled back, his amber eyes glowing as he watched her approach. The love and pride on his face made her heart swell. When she reached him, he took her hands in his. "You take my breath away," he whispered. The ceremony was beautiful, full of traditional wolf rituals and vows. They exchanged marks, though they'd already claimed each other. They added decorative ceremonial marks as well. They shared blood from a ceremonial cup, symbolizing their united future. And when the elder performing the ceremony announced them as officially mated, the crowd erupted in cheers. But the most important moment came when they placed the queen's crown on her head, a delicate circlet of silver set with moonstones. As it settled on her head, Thaddeus turned to address the crowd. "I present to you Queen Celestia Blackthorn, my mate, my partner, and the future of our kingdom. She has already shown more courage and compassion than most warriors show in a lifetime. She will lead beside me with wisdom and grace. Any who doubt her have only to look at her journey, from servant to queen, from invisible to invaluable. She is proof that worth is not determined by blood, but by character." The crowd cheered again, and Celestia saw tears in the eyes of several guests, including Elder Thorne, who was beaming with pride. As tradition dictated, Thaddeus then swept her into his arms and carried her back down the aisle, his queen claimed and crowned before all the packs. The celebration afterward was lavish, with food, music, and dancing lasting long into the night. Celestia was introduced to countless pack leaders, their mates, their families. Some were warmer than others, but all showed her respect. Late in the evening, as they danced together under strings of lanterns, Thaddeus pulled her close. "Happy?" he asked. "Deliriously," she confirmed. "I keep waiting to wake up and find out this was all a dream." "It's real? You're my queen now, officially and irrevocably mine." "And you're mine," she reminded him. "Always. From the moment I walked into that hall and saw you on your knees, you owned me, Celestia. You just didn't know it yet." She thought back to that day, to how terrified and humiliated she'd felt. And then she thought about everything that had happened since. The protection, the claiming, the love, the crown. "Best day of my life," she said suddenly. He looked surprised. "The ceremony?" "No. The day you found me. The day my uncle forced me to kneel, and you pulled me onto your throne instead. That was the day my life truly began." His eyes grew suspiciously bright. "I love you so much it terrifies me sometimes." "I love you too. My king, my mate, my everything." They kissed under the lanterns, surrounded by celebrating guests, and Celestia thought about the fairy tales her father used to read to her. The stories always ended with happily ever after, as if that was the conclusion. But she was learning that happily ever after wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning, the start of a life built on love, respect, and partnership. There would be challenges ahead, she knew. Not everyone would accept her. Some would always see her as the half-breed servant who got lucky, but none of that mattered, because she had Thaddeus beside her. She had a purpose, a home, and a love that burned brighter than any star. As they finally retired to their chambers in the early hours of morning, Thaddeus carried her over the threshold one more time. "My queen," he murmured against her lips. "My king," she replied, and as they came together in the privacy of their rooms, the mate bond singing between them, Celestia knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. From invisible to invaluable, from servant to queen, from alone to beloved. Her uncle had forced her to kneel before alphas, trying to break her spirit and prove her worthlessness. But the Alpha King had seen her true value. He'd pulled her onto his throne, placed a crown on her head, and given her a kingdom. More importantly, he'd given her love, respect, and a future bright with possibility. That, Celestia thought as she fell asleep in her mate's arms, was the real fairy tale. Not the crown or the palace or the title, but the man who saw her when she was invisible, who valued her when others saw only shame, who loved her not despite her differences, but because of everything she was. And they lived, not just happily ever after, but fully, deeply, and completely, for all their days.